You know how we talked a little bit about, well, you use the term like living in the void all the time. When you come into contact with somebody who basically lives in that space and has cultivated it very deeply, it will have more substance to it. So a lot of therapists learn mindfulness and meditation because they know it has healing and relaxation elements to it, and it can help settle down anxiety and things like this, and just bring more calm and serenity to the mind. But throughout the day, they too will be kind of living in psychology and also engaged with the same types of concerns within themselves. Maybe they try to practice mindfulness a little bit more than a so-called an ordinary person. But when you come into contact with somebody who does it for a lifestyle, who lives in meditation, it's very different, and it's much more powerful, and it's much more hard hitting. So that's why I say, you want to go to the source when it comes to meditation, and when it comes to learning about the nature of the mind or trying to get insight. You're connecting with somebody else, another piece of life which is totally immersed in that space, and so it has a very powerful effect. In yoga, there's a terminology. They use the terminology of a guru, which, this means basically it's a guide. It's somebody that you can connect to, who deeply immerses themselves in that energy. And as you move towards that person and connect with that person, the energy kind of transfers a little bit. So that would explain why it was quite a heavy hitting experience for you in comparison to maybe some of the other stuff you've done. I don't know if you've ever been to a monastery, like a meditation monastery. There's an energy to the place. Monks live there, monks and nuns, and maybe there's 10 of them, 15 of them, 20 of them, or more even sometimes, all living in their own little... So they have a hut. It's a small hut, very small hut. Each one of them will have their own little room, basically. But it's built on the property somewhere. It's a separate dwelling away from all the other monks. And actually, the Buddha laid down a rule, which means when they construct these huts, they have to build it in a place where they can't see any of the other monks, so they get this sense of being totally isolated. It could just be over a ridge or behind a group of trees. There might be another hut, but you wouldn't be able to see it, and the monks tend to live very silently, so you wouldn't hear them hardly at all either. You go to one of these places, and these monks have been living there 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, depending on the monk. And there's a real energy to the place. When you walk into one of those properties, your mind is taken over by this energy of calmness and serenity, and that's what it is. It's a cultivation of that energy, and the energy kind of lingers, it feels like it has a substance. If you spend enough time in that space, you too will start to connect with it. The dominant energy of those environments is peace, whereas in most environments in the world and in the modern world, the dominant energy is business, busyness, and chaos. And so it has that will still have the same effect. If you are immersed in chaos, often you will become more dominated by chaos, Like attracts like. You've heard that before, right? Energies attract, So, you want to be kind of selective about what you're connecting with, who you're connecting with. This is if you want to cultivate peace anyway, because there's a very real way to do it. There's a very concrete way to cultivate peace.